This time on episode 235 of Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., we'll be talking about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Rise and Shine, the Marvel News Roundup, and listener feedback.
Check out other geeky podcasts at GonnaGeekNetwork.com and get ready because geekiness begins in 3, 2, 1.
You have been granted clearance by Director Phil Coulson. Stand by for S.H.I.E.L.D. debriefing. All information to be discussed here is classified and may only be discussed among agents granted clearance by the S.H.I.E.L.D. Director.
Now it's time for your scheduled debriefing. I'm Director SP.
I'm Agent Haley.
And I'm Consultant Michelle.
Welcome to Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., a Marvel Comic Universe fan show. This show is recorded on Sunday, April 1st, 2018, live from the Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. studios and broadcast galactic-wide on www.geeks.live. Ladies, happy April Fool's Day!
Yay.
The day to not believe anything, anywhere.
The internet is lying to you.
Indeed. I've already been sent a couple of things. It was kind of hilarious, but yeah, it's kind of, I don't know, almost on a fail because it's not only on Sunday, but on a religious holiday Sunday. So it's like, well, Mondays are much better for April Fools.
Probably
true.
In the meantime, Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a fan-based podcast on the ABC television show Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Marvel's Defenders on Netflix, Legion on FX, which airs this week with Season 2, possibly The Gifted on Fox if Haley puts it on the schedule, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and the Marvel Comic Universe in general.
Because of not liking your son-in-law before your daughter's even born.
If you'd like to talk to us about not liking your son-in-law, you can visit our website, legendsofshield.com.
You can call us and complain about your in-laws by calling 844-THE-BUS-1. That's 844-843-2871.
You can also find us on Facebook. We have a page, Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. Podcast.
On Twitter, we are at Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D.
And on YouTube, you can find our videos at youtube.com/GonnaGeek.
And remember, Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a proud member of the GonnaGeek.com network.
And as a reminder, Agent Lauren is out this week. She actually said she was going to be gone last week. And indeed, she is gone, which leads me to the hypothesis that in 2018, the four of us will not be on a podcast 2 weeks in a row in 2018. So we'll see how that goes long term. And as a quick reminder, and in fact, an announcement to Haley, Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. is now available with its own skill on Amazon's personal voice assistant home device.
That's exciting.
Don't worry, I'm not going to say the A word that will activate your device, but basically the skill is really neat. All you have to do is say A word, enable Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. skill, and you'll be able to have full player control. You won't have to go through a third-party skill like Tune In or anything else. And you can reach into our entire back catalog. You'll have the ability to swap back and forth between episodes, full player control. Like I said, you can skip forward X amount of seconds, that sort of thing. And if you do happen to enable the skill, please rate it in the Amazon Skill Store because we're beta testing it for Libsyn or Liberated Syndication. That's our podcast media host. So if you're listening to the audio of this podcast, odds are you have downloaded it through Libsyn, and we're just really excited to have this capability, this skill, as it were, this app, if you prefer that terminology, but the correct terminology is skill. We hope you find it useful, and the link to the skill, by the way, will be available in the show notes. And we actually have a listener that hit us back up that has enabled the skill at Born to Eat Bacon, tweeted us, and he said, I enabled the Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. skill, and Alexa likes repeating Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. I use it on my Amazon tablet that I use for podcast. How perfect. I think that's very perfect. And by the way, that wasn't my doing. I actually called the skill Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D, but apparently they like to actually spell out S.H.I.E.L.D because of the period somewhere in the app skill. So there you go. Haley, you said that was kind of neat. Do you have an Amazon home device?
I have 2 dots that I've had for months now, and I have not set up yet.
It seems to be a common thing for people that got it for Christmas. Now you have an excuse to set it up, and then you can come back and tell us what you thought of the skill.
So I can hear my own voice in any room of my house.
Yeah, that's right. And you can, more importantly, you can hear Michelle's voice. And less importantly, you can hear my voice.
I don't want to hear your voice in my apartment ever. Like, that's not a thing I want in my life.
You could probably program the Amazon home device to mute.
Hey, Alexa,
me.
mute SP.
I'm sure the Amazon home device will do that. In any event, we're going to move on to the main event. We're here to discuss Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Rise and Shine. That's the episode title. So, Haley, you've been gone for a while. Why don't you regale us with what you think the title is?
Well, we found out that Hale is like a very great mom. So every morning she brings her daughter breakfast in bed as she's getting ready for school and says, sings a little song about rising and shining and, seizing the day. So that's where the name of the episode came from.
Did you even watch the episode?
There was an episode?
Michelle,
why are we here? What's happening?
Michelle, why don't you correct Haley, please?
Well, over the course of the episode, you see a lot of people waking up and getting out of bed in the Hydra compound, starting with young Hale and Ruby and Talbot and Coulson. It is just that sort of interesting rise and shine and dine in the Hydra Econo Lodge Continental Breakfast Room.
Indeed, it's a trope. It's a one-trick pony, basically, that General Hale has to initiate people to the Hydra compound. I think it's almost like a bomb shelter underground. That's what it looks like to me. And I think it's one of the only ways that they could keep it secret. So, if you flash forward to the beginning of the season, this compound might have existed in the future. We don't know. So, Haley, who directed this episode?
Well, this episode, directed by a familiar name for those that have been listening to the podcast for a while, Jesse Bochco. We've had discussions about him 7 previous times on the podcast. This is number 8. And he's directed 10 episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He has 16 directing credits going back to 2002, 10 episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He did Girl in the Flower Dress, Heavy is the Head, Love in the Time of Hydra, 4,722 Hours, which is one of SP's favorites, Watch Dogs, Deals with Our Devils, Wake Up, Orientation Part 1, Rewind, and Rise and Shine. He also has done a couple episodes of Prison Break and 10 episodes of NYPD Blue.
I believe we've established that he is the son of Stephen Bochco.
Okay.
So, yeah, definitely has some Hollywood cred to him. Now, Michelle, who was Jesse's writing partner for this episode?
This episode was written by Aiden Bogdachi. Has 2 credits since 2016. 2 Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Slingshot, 1 Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., plus 14 production assistant credits.
So, once again, we've been seeing this throughout the season where some of the people that have been working the series have been bubbling up into higher creative roles with the episodes. So, I think Aiden did a good job here, but we'll get to that in a second. And what you thought of the episode, because you're tuning in or not tuning in. ABC aired the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 5, Episode 14. Episode 15, excuse me, The Rise and Shine, on Friday, March 30th, 2018, to a live rating of 1.86. It is not the season low, by the way. That is A Life Earned, which happened back in December. And it's down from 2.03 last week with The Devil Complex. I'm going to give this one a pass because it's kind of a spring break week for the kids in high school and college. This is kind of a standard week for that. So I'm thinking there were some people that would have watched it, but were not at home to see it. And that's okay because they can see it on demand later. Now, Michelle, we know what the audience thought of the episode because they tuned in with their numbers, but what did your mom think of the episode?
This is interesting. This episode made my mom like Hale
Huh.
because she ends up being very protective of Ruby. And when Hale kills the dude that Ruby is arguing with because Ruby doesn't want to kill her dog, my mom's like, yeah, that's my type of woman. Like,
She killed the Hale Hogwarts Dumbledore is basically who she killed.
Dumbledore or Snape?
Yeah, okay, I'll go with Snape.
I don't know if I would equate Hydra training school with Hogwarts.
Our audience has some of our audience actually tweeted us back and said it's basically a Hale Hydra Hogwarts. Oh my gosh, that's going to be impossible for me to say.
No, I think it's just, evil boarding school. It's a boarding school, I guess.
Yeah, it's a prep school. It's not really an academy. It's not a college. It's a prep school. So interesting that your mom liked Hale. Now, I can see that because of the kind of forced into mother surrogacy and the whole protection of Ruby later on. I'm going to focus in on what she's doing with Coulson and Talbot for that matter. And I'm not okay with it because she still is bartering Earth's resources, basically the important stuff like Inhumans and Gravitonium. Now, allegedly, she wants to get the moral high ground, but she's not willing to listen to Coulson when Coulson says, whoa, stop, time out. This is a bad idea. And this is why. She can't make that jump to you've been to the future and you've seen what's going on. So I don't know if I completely like her or not.
A couple things. She might be trying to save the planet now, but her methods are still very Hydra because that's all she knows. Sorry. Because that's all she knows how to do is, this is how Hydra would deal with the situation. And Coulson, he had to make it, he had to describe things in a very Coulson way, and I don't think that was the best way to explain things to her in that moment. He had to make, his jokes, he had to have his quippy one-liners. I think he could have explained things more quickly in a way that she would understand and believe.
Possibly. It's not like he had a lot of leeway and choice. She was directing him all along. She made him go to the Confederacy through the space transport.
No, not then. Right when, at the end, when he blurts out that they've been to the future, I think then he could have done a better job explaining what information he had, what he knew was going to happen in the future.
How would he have done it better?
Just straightforward say, I understand what you're trying to do, but we know that this plan doesn't work. Daisy will crack the planet open if you do this.
That's kind of what he said.
But not in a way that, the way he presented the information is what made her so defensive.
Or he could have phrased it as such, I know Quake's ability, and I know if you infuse the gravitonium, she will lose control. Yes, she has a good heart, and that's why you want to pick her, but I know her powers, and her powers would actually not make your plan work. Sort of giving her the truth without saying how he knows the truth.
Well, and the whole secondary interrogation when Ruby comes into the room, because they've done it before, right? They've done it with Strucker. But when she comes in, it was like, okay, what's really going on? And he's like, yeah, you're not it. It's Daisy. She's the destroyer of worlds. I don't know if I'm Hale, if I want to really give that gravitonium to Quake, I'd want Ruby to have it. But she's obviously not thinking that's a good idea. Is it just because she's protecting Ruby, or does she really think that Ruby doesn't have a good heart for the decisions?
Ruby cut off Yo-Yo's arms, and that acted against Hale's wishes. She sees Ruby as impulsive and perhaps too aggressive for the procedure.
Okay.
Yes. Do you want to get a red skull? Because that's how you get a red skull.
So it really was in basically protection of Ruby because she thinks that Ruby is not the right fit for the infusion container or whatever they were calling it. All right.
Yeah.
So far we know that Hale has Ruby, who's bred basically to be a leader war machine sort of thing. They've got the android Ivan Drago. They've got Crusher Creel, and they've got the Strucker boy. And that's her team. That's all she's got because there's only really 2 Hydra left. There's her and her daughter. But we do reminisce. We go 28 years back and we go to this underground prep school, whatever you want to call it, Hydra Hogwarts. And we see, quote unquote, we'll just call it Baby Hale because that's what was tweeted back and forth. Whereas all these characters 28 years ago called Hale babies. And you had Baby Hale. And Baby Hale wants to be an astronaut. She still does, and she couldn't have Ruby, as she said later. But it was interesting. I actually paused this screenshot with all the books on the shelves. Those are real books. Those aren't there because some prop guy made them up. Those are real books. And did you guys take a look at the list of the books that I put in the show notes?
I'm looking now.
Which ones really pop out at you?
4 American Spies.
Yeah, The Widows, 4 American Spies. It's a real book. It was written by William Corson, Susan Trento, and Joseph Trento. I believe it was written in 1983. So was available when this was shot 28 years ago.
I don't know if anybody's watching The Americans, but spoiler alert for the last couple seasons, they're kind of training their daughter to be the 2nd generation spy now. And that's what these books make me think of.
Indeed, they do. And yeah, I watched, by the way, the last season premiered in the past week. So if you haven't caught that yet, the premiere episode was pretty cool. I personally like the It Doesn't Take a Hero, the autobiography of Norman Schwarzkopf. That was interesting because he's an American hero. And so Hale was looking forward to Schwarzkopf as a benevolent leader, unless maybe Schwarzkopf in some fictional comic universe was Hydra, but I doubt that. So I thought that was interesting. But what should have been really interesting to me for this entire time is we get Baby Sitwell.
Yeah, because that's the only version of him we'll ever see now since he's dead.
I love seeing like Baby Sitwell and Baby Strucker. And
I like that she called out that like he's going to end up in middle management.
He had nothing to debate that. He's like, yeah, I got it. Yep, that's what it is. It's good to know your lot in life. Sitwell. But getting back to the only version, we didn't see a body of Sitwell. We didn't see the finale, so I don't know. I'm not ready to go.
There's no body left once you become a puddle.
We didn't see the puddle. It was all behind.
Show me the body of the last bug you hit on the highway. Like when you spread it out far enough, there's not a body left to show. It's a smear on your windshield, and that's it.
I mean, it's the annoying blob on your windshield that stays there until you wipe it off.
But it's not a body.
Well, we didn't even see the blob. We just saw a truck go by and that's it. We didn't see what was left.
Dead, Jim.
Yeah, he's dead. So dead.
We also got to see Daniel Whitehall back with the compliance thing. That was eerie a little bit. Red Skull's Tesseract was mentioned, and the whole dog thing that these people have to kill their dogs. I'm so over that. I like how they did it because they didn't show anything and they just showed a collar. They didn't show an action or anything like that. So I'm glad they've taken that step forward, but I could have done without the whole dog needs to die.
If you've read a Game of Thrones, the books, I don't think they went over this in the TV show. They might have. But one of the things the Unsullied have to do is raise a puppy and then kill it. And that's what that made me think of. And we'd seen this before with Ward, but we didn't really know that it was a formal part of the training. It could have just been something Garrett had him do. But no, that's part of Hydra training, is that you have to raise something, love it, and be willing to destroy it for Hydra.
I get that. It's just the whole dog loving thing part of me is like, that's totally not cool.
So are you saying that it would be better if they raised cats and killed the cats, or hamsters or something?
Monster.
I don't know. I just leave the dogs alone. That's all I'm saying. So then they fast forward to 2 years ago and they reference Gideon Malik's capture, which it would have been good to actually see him on screen, but we couldn't, of course, because he passed away. What was that, a year and a half ago or so? It was really close to the end of the season that he was on. The actor passed away. Powers, right?
Remember.
Yeah. So they referenced that, which was cool. But then the General Fisher, and I don't remember, have we seen General Fisher before? I don't remember General Fisher as a character.
I don't either.
Remember.
Okay, so it was kind of made up for this, unless we're totally forgetting it. And then he gave Hale the mission to figure out what this whole device was for the Confederacy. And unlike our explanations last week, the Confederacy is not born from our Confederacy, but it's this Confederacy of space races that want to protect Earth from an incoming invasion. Michelle, did you like that twist? Yeah. Michelle, did you like that little twist?
I thought it was interesting how when Talbot comes in, he automatically assumes Hale has no idea that Fisher is Hydra. He's just like, oh, come here, Hale. You know, I need to protect you because you obviously have no clue that Fisher is Hydra, and you obviously can't be Hydra for reasons. And I thought that was interesting. And then also, if you remember, the prep school had a lot fewer students than before. Ruby didn't have a lot of classmates.
No, she had 3 classmates versus Hale had like dozens. Yeah, that prep school had gone down in population pretty much. And that is after the purge, I guess, based on Winter Soldier too. So yeah, they've been on a downward spiral ever since. Talking about Talbot and his differentiation between the two generals, do you think that was him talking or the mustache talking?
I think that was him, because the stash always knows better.
See, that's what I was thinking too, but just needed some confirmation there. Then they fast forward to 6 months ago, and we finally get a resolution on what happened to Talbot. So I'm liking what they're doing. And once again, that this season finale could be the series finale. They're tying up that loose end of what happened with Talbot, and the brain injury that he has sustained has taken his impulse control away from him, which is sad because he's got a family and everything. But that allows Hale to take control of him, which is kind of funny at the beginning, right? Because he's like, oh, I outrank Captain Crunch in whatever rank structure it is. And he starts eating it. That was great.
Aren't he and Hale both 1-star generals?
That's another thing I was going to say.
Okay.
He does not necessarily outrank her. Now, if he legitimately was placed in a position of command over her, you can be the same rank and outrank or outcommand, but you're the same rank. So yeah, that whole statement.
Yeah, it seemed like they were working in kind of different divisions or something.
She was almost like admin and he was out leading the troops or something like that. That was the inference that I got, which I don't agree with, but okay.
I don't know that she was necessarily admin, maybe more like of a research role, it seemed, like some sort of science division.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of that in the Air Force, yeah. Could be. I did notice that Hydra's finances aren't as great as they once were. It's not only people, but it's money, because poor Ruby, she's got to deal with the old style Apple earbuds and not the earpods.
It's just because her mom never gets her the cool new stuff. God.
Generals make enough to get her the cool new stuff, unless they are also affording a whole underground bunker with morning breakfast service every day.
Do Hydra members have to pay dues?
How else could they afford all this stuff? It's like union dues or if you do a heist, percentage goes to Hydra, that sort of thing.
Alumni donations.
Oh, do they get the annoying calls like every day?
or
Hi,
the
my
annual.
name is Craig, and I am calling from the University of Hydra Alumni Association. How are you today?
we just want to have some help for your wonderful alma mater. Yeah.
We know you probably enjoyed your time here at Hydra's lovely underground bunker campus, and we hope you will help future students enjoy their time here as well.
And you're not simulating a computer device here.
No,
You're simulating.
that's the way the guy who's reading the script sounds when he calls.
Yeah, because it's just another student that's just earning some points off their tuition by doing that. And the reason I know this is because in high school, I had to do that. Everybody had to take a turn manning the phones, and I still get those calls today. But whenever I get a call from that area code, I never answer it. So
mine is labeled Alumni Association, last name do not answer.
Well, I would love to do that, but they have like 24 numbers and they change every year. They actually activate new numbers every year for this. So I can't, I tried that already. It doesn't work.
My school's cheaper than yours, I guess, because they didn't do that.
It's probably the office number. They just go into the principal's office and use the principal's phone or something. So whenever you have a kid, Haley, and you send your child back to that school, now you got to take that number off because whenever the phone.
We're not going to be using phones by then.
I hope not.
It'll all beam directly into your brain.
That's kind of scary and cool all at the same time. But then Talbot gets tortured, which is almost heartbreaking because the guy, it's just this, I want to say Boy Scout, but he's not really a Boy Scout. He's just this earnest guy, gung-ho guy, is trying to do the right thing. And he gets tortured for 6 months by Ruby.
That's great, dude.
Phil Coulson's coming for me. It's neat though. He's got this bromance with Phil Coulson's like, Phil Coulson's coming for me, S.H.I.E.L.D's coming. And they never come.
Yeah, but CrossFit Tinkerbell must have a lot of
CrossFit Tinkerbell
techniques because he does break, tells them everything.
It's got to be a little easier to manipulate somebody that does not have impulse control though.
True.
Well, then we flash forward to 24 hours ago, and the whole Coulson thing. Coulson's pretty cool. This is the third time we've gone through the whole breakfast thing where they wake up, the doors open, and the continental breakfast is there. And Phil sees straight through it. He's like, "Just tell your mom I'll be in my bunk." And he's sitting in bed eating breakfast, just waiting for her to show up. I like that scene. That was Phil Coulson. And then she shows Phil the transport. We'll just call it transporter device. Michelle mentioned that before we went live. Transporter device. I'm just going to go with it. Space transporter. And she shows him that space transporter device, and Phil immediately says, "Bad idea. I recognize that writing is alien writing, and that's a bad idea. Let's not do that." She doesn't listen to that at all.
I like they were using the Earth as like the origin of a polar coordinate system, though. That was very cool.
It was, and it's slightly like Stargate, right? Now,
Right.
Longitude and latitude are 3-dimensional coordinates. It's not 2-dimensional coordinates like the Stargate coordinates where you need 6 degrees.
Well, really, it's defining a direction. Like, basically, the center of the Earth is the origin. The lat long gives you a ray in that direction, and then altitude gives you distance.
Right.
Whereas Stargate, for whatever reason, lacked a coordinate system, which is why it required 6 points.
Well, it's a different coordinate system. It's spatial coordinate.
Right.
System.
Well, I mean, instead of having I guess it didn't have defined axes is really the thing. So
Right.
you had to have 2 points to define any direction.
But basically, it's the same thing. You're
Yes.
defining your point of origin, and you're defining where the other point is out there. That was pretty cool, and it was pretty cool graphic. The pause. If I go to the ABC streaming on demand site, the shot that they show for this episode is the two of them standing on the opposite side of the space transporter with the graphic above with the ray direction ray on top. It's really cool graphic. I'm sure, when they were filming it, they had to, okay, what are we looking at? You're just looking at this CGI thing, this graphic, this holographic that's up there, and just pretend you see what's going on. It just made for an interesting still shot. It was also interesting that Hale announced Coulson as Earth's shield, one of Earth's mightiest heroes.
Yes, that was a good line.
Yes, and my brain kind of went, why doesn't Coulson just suggest they call the Avengers? Or he could say, the Avengers are probably on this.
It gets back to the communication between the two is broken. Like, Coulson knows that the Avengers, because he had that conversation with Fury a few years ago. Coulson knows that the Avengers do not know that he's alive.
Why at this point, though, it doesn't make sense for him to try and protect that secret. Like, protecting the Earth is a bigger deal than, the hurt feelings that are going to come up when they find out you've been alive all this time and didn't tell them.
I don't disagree. It's not really hashtag it's all connected anymore.
Well, and he could even keep his hands clean. He could have May call them and never come out.
That would be interesting. It would be interesting to see her in the cinematic universe. I'm wondering, the team could be in the movie. I don't know.
I've always harbored a secret hope that they are in it, and this is just a big long run con where they say, "Oh, we can't make it happen."
Or maybe at least the bus. You show the bus in a scene flying around or something like that. At least that, because they did that in Star Wars, right? With the Rebels, they showed the Phantom.
Okay.
In Rogue One, something like that, something little like that would be good to see if you can't actually have the actors in there. I would think by now that the credits would have to be there, because actors like Clark Gregg and Ming-Na, they would have to be credited in the credits before the movie came out. That's the only thing that's keeping me from saying that
a lot of times what happens is you don't necessarily know every person that's going to be in the movie ahead of time, because they don't have to release those credits ahead of time, but it's on the movie. But after you've seen the movie, it doesn't matter. But Matt Damon was in Thor Ragnarok, and we didn't know that was happening ahead of time.
Nice pull. Yep. No, we didn't. That was a good one.
And if they can keep Matt Damon a secret, I think they can keep Ming-Na and Clark Gregg a secret.
That would be cool. And also Chloe Bennett. I mean, you can't.
Yeah, I mean, the whole team is what I want.
Yeah. All right. Now, Michelle, you've been kind of the herd rider over the Gravitonium this season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for us, which has been great. And it's obviously being mentioned. General Hale has the Gravitonium, and she's talking about what they actually want to do. They want to infuse somebody in the chamber with the Gravitonium to make a new super soldier, sort of whatever. And I'm thinking exactly what you've been saying. What about the dude that is in the Gravitonium? Isn't he already there? This might not end well because of that.
Is he still in there? I don't think he is.
See, we don't know yet. But maybe that might help, because there is an organic component already in the Gravitonium, and perhaps that would help the bonding procedure.
Or, evil guy takes over Daisy when she's infused, and that's why the Earth gets cracked. Daisy didn't do it. The bad guy who's now in her did.
Or maybe Ruby takes control of the chamber and infuses herself, and that ends poorly because of...
Well, that would change the future.
Well, we don't know for sure that Daisy fusing with the Gravitonium causes the mess in the future. We just know that she's running into wherever.
No, but so now we're getting into which parts of the future can't be changed.
Well, yeah, because the name of the project's called Destroyer of Worlds. So whoever ends up in the chamber is technically the Destroyer of Worlds. So if it's Ruby, then Ruby could have just not used the powers really well and cracked the Earth. And perhaps if Daisy had been infused, she could have controlled it and destroyed all the ships instead of the Earth. Who knows?
It's an interesting quandary right now because we don't know if anything can change, because so far nothing has changed as far as we know, which gets me into, well, they had to go through this the first time sometime. So what changed between the first time and the second time? Because the second time through, then you see yourselves in the future and you get some future information. So
unless it's all no. It could all be a loop. So one theory of time travel is that loops are created as a whole. So there is no timeline exists where they did not go to the future and come back.
Okay. So that could be the case.
Yes.
Where,
like if you've seen Harry Potter, is it which one?
Prisoner of Azkaban?
Yes, that one. Where Harry is always going around, like a future version of Harry is running around doing things. There is no version of the timeline that exists where that didn't happen.
okay, so that's a possibility, but that leads credence to the
But that
theory.
makes for a bad TV show.
Yeah, and it
They
also
can't fix it.
leads to, like, you can't change anything if
Yes.
that's the case. And we need something to change in order for the Earth to be
Right,
saved.
which makes me think something terrible is going to happen. Like Yo-Yo believes she can't die because she's seen this future version of herself. So one way we could know that the timeline has changed is if Yo-Yo dies.
Yeah,
Or
that's a great thing, because in this episode, all of a sudden you have at least 3 characters that think they're invincible. You have Fitz and Simmons, which isn't entirely true because we don't see Simmons in the future. Simmons just assumed.
No. But they at least raised their daughter for some period of time. So
Do we know that?
Fitz actually gave the pocket knife to Deke. He has memories of his grandfather. So
we've seen Fitz in a
right.
in a future. We haven't seen Simmons though.
So that's how we know Fitz. Deke's mom has a lot of specific memories of her mother. So her mother helped raise her to at least some age where she was able to have memories of her mother.
All right. I can subscribe to that. So, okay. But you do have these 3 characters now that just are convinced that they make it into the future.
So
Ming-Na too.
Tell us that we've changed the future is to kill one of them.
Could it be Fitz? Because it would be him paying the price for...
And also, who else thinks that Simmons is already pregnant?
Yeah, that was pretty obvious at the end of the previous episode. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, Fitz dies now, and he doesn't go on to raise this child. So they changed the future.
Yeah, okay. So, but something happens, and Yo-Yo mentions that Coulson has to die too. So that could be one of the things that has to happen. Like maybe they do try to save Coulson, and instead of doing that, they let him die instead.
Well, I think in the original timeline, they did try to save him. They just weren't successful. But it was their trying to save him that set events into motion that led to the catastrophes that they're dealing with.
It's a show based off of the Wheatons. You know that something terrible is going to happen. Something terrible did happen with the whole Fitz thing. You weren't around last week. None of us were really comfortable with that, what happened last week. And
Sky's not okay with it. She doesn't forgive him for the things that he did.
I don't blame her. Do you blame her?
No, but I kind of expected it. Like, I expected them to be like, oh, he's Fitz. We love him. Like, let's go. Oh, and now I'm thinking about when Daisy first got her powers and Fitz was the one that was comforting and understanding. And he was like, no, we're not broken. We're fine. Like, and to see them here now where she thinks he deserves to be locked up forever, it's a little heartbreaking.
It's a lot heartbreaking. Yeah.
He points out that Daisy has turned on the team as well in the past.
Yes.
Yeah, there was a whole half season where she wasn't part of the team. And we had this big debate going. Remember this, Haley, where we were debating how long it would take before Daisy became part of the team again? It was really about halfway through the season that she became part of the team again.
Mm-hmm.
I think I won that bet.
I don't remember. I don't remember where we all came down on it. I don't remember what I was thinking now either. Oh, Fitz doesn't regret his actions.
And it's very interesting that he said it and then he raised his hand like to show off the wedding ring too. I don't know if there's significance of that or not, but it sure seemed like there was, because every time that he talked like that, you would see the ring on his hand.
Now, that's true. They did shoot it that way. But he does say that if it wasn't closed, the outside world would have been affected. And then he says to Daisy, "Would you have agreed to it?" And she says no. And he's like, "Well, I had to save the world, so that's why I did it."
I
It's
don't
just
know
like,
if you would have eventually agreed to it or not. Like when it got bad enough, I think she might have agreed to it.
Well, because she thinks that getting her powers back is going to lead to the destruction of the world anyways. So it would be hard for her to agree to that because she doesn't want to destroy the world.
All right, so we're talking about the destruction of the world. I got to go back to the Confederacy and the fact that they told Hale to put that bomb in that area specifically to destroy those 3 monoliths so that humanity didn't have a way to reach outside the planet. I think that is deliberate that it happened that way, and it's because the Confederacy was telling Hale to do it.
Well, we still don't know what that third monolith did.
No, we don't. We just know what the 3 together do. Not good. Fearville and the rip in space-time.
Well, that's from destroying them, not necessarily from how they're supposed to work.
Yeah, true.
But we had one that went to a specific other location in space. We had one that did maybe a specific time, but maybe just time travel in general. Maybe the other one was capable of other space travel. So it's like, what was the third one?
Yeah, and if they activated all at the same time when they were in the same room, wow. That's right. A scientific experiment.
And again, we don't know, like maybe they found the on-off switch, but they never found the dial. So like they couldn't go to other places and they couldn't go to other times. They were just like, oh, it's on now.
Could be kind of a Stargate thing where you only had the coordinates to another Stargate. So that's all that you knew that were there until you uncover that there are other coordinates to go to. Yeah. Well, and then it ended up in real time, right? And you had Daisy saying the pun. And we don't have any quotes this week, so I'm just going to say this. Hail Hydra. Seriously.
And then the look on May's face when she said it, like, come on.
And then Daisy's like, how come we're still fighting Nazis?
That was also a very good line.
Good question, Daisy. Good question.
And I forgot that May was a part of Hydra in the framework too. I'm so glad she said that because I totally forgot that she was. She did say that she regrets some of the decisions that she made, but she doesn't consider herself as far gone as Fitz. And because Fitz has brought that forward into his real life now. But
May has a little more experience dealing with darker elements of her personality than Fitz does.
Oh, yeah. And we did get the supervillain. Fitz he was acting like a supervillain. Did you think that he was going to use that 2 hours with the computer system to like escape or further his diabolical plan or anything like that? Did you guys think that? I totally thought it.
We don't know.
Michelle?
I actually think he was telling the truth, that he still wanted to help because he sees everything that he's doing as helping the team. It's not the right way to go through things, but he thinks he's doing the right thing, which is kind of dangerous.
Again, it's the Hydra way of thinking. Hale right now thinks she's doing what is best for the planet by working with this Confederacy and taking people hostage and torturing people, because that is how Hydra would deal with this problem. And that's the way Fitz is dealing with things right now. And it's not what we want from our heroes. We want them to find a better way.
Yeah, I think he was going to use the time to escape or set up something. And I don't think it was all benevolent, because that's just not how he's thinking these days. But we'll never know because they don't use him. Daisy rather goes off to try to find Robin, supposedly in hiding. So do you think, by the way, if she's going out to see Robin, you think they're going to bring back a couple of former agents that might be looking out for Robin? Like
I
maybe
hope so.
Mockingbird? Yeah, I hope so too.
Ooh, what if this is how Robin's mother dies? It's because Daisy goes find her. Because in the future, May is Robin's mother.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
can totally see that. Ouch, that's going to be a harsh one.
So I've long talked about how I think the show is going to end. I still think it ends the same way, except when May and Coulson are on the beach, it's like Coulson's last day and he dies on the beach.
You're assuming he makes it that far.
Yes.
You weren't here last week. Another thing that I mentioned was that the framework was mentioned in the future, and Deke had programmed the framework. I still think that Deke will be using the framework to help Fitz out with his now mental illness. So I think that's going to come back because there's no reason for them to have told us that Deke is a framework programmer at the beginning of the season. And
Or it was the Easter egg to like the payoff to him being the grandson.
I think
Like
that's right.
that should have been like when he said I made the framework. I think everyone should have said, well, that's what Fitz did. That's Fitz's grandkid. I think that's probably why they might have done that.
See, I kind of thought when we first met Deke that he was going to be like a descendant of somebody on the team. But then like there was no payoff for it and like no hints at it early on. So I was like, oh, I guess they're not going that way. And then at first we thought, he died when they came back. So I was like, oh, well, I guess they're not doing that.
right. And everybody in the future ended up, except for 2 characters or 3 characters, ended up being expendable anyway. So none of us wanted to get close to anybody in the future because after a while it was, oh, they're just killing everybody, which didn't end up happening, but still made us not really invest us caring into those characters. And now we've got Deke in the present and he's a grandson. So now we're
And he
all
loves
invested in
Zima.
Deke. Yeah.
Fitz is like, but he's the worst.
Kids these days.
A daughter marries some space bum. How could we let that happen?
Are you assuming they got married? I mean, maybe they didn't. I guess it's ABC and a family show, so you try to go that way. But anyway,
I was expecting Simmons to tell him she was pregnant in that scene.
I was as well. It's good that she's keeping that as a card right now, so she can use it later. But yeah, you're married, you're pregnant. Tell the other person. There are instances where you don't want to, and it usually involves a supervillain. But I mean, look at Star Wars. Luke and Leia. All right. Is there anything else you want to talk about this episode, Michelle?
I'm good.
Haley?
I think I'm good.
All right. So it's time to rate the episode. We're going to rate the episode this week as to how many Hydra Hogwarts Hall passes that you need in order to walk around. 1 out of 10. So, Michelle, what do you think? How would you rate it?
Well, it's definitely better than last week. I was surprised at certain points. I think a 7.
All right. I will agree that it was way better than last week. Haley, what do you think?
I think this felt like a 7 as well.
7?
Definitely
Good.
not as good as some of the episodes we've had this season, but it's pretty solid.
I was like a 5 or a 6 last week, I believe. So we'll just call it 5.5. This week I'll go 7.5 because I just like the cool time thing with the knives. I just kind of like that. That was pretty cool. So that gave it the extra 0.5 bump for me. And there you go. That is the episode. Next time we will be talking about the 16th episode of the 5th season, Inside Voices. And that will be April 8th, 2018 on Sunday, 1 p.m. at geeks.live. In the meantime, Haley, if other people, our listeners, want to know any other geeky content out there, where would you send them?
Well, I would send them to gonnageek.com, where they can find tons of great geeky content, including the latest episode of Super Geeky Playdate, episode 69, live at NanoCon, exclamation point. We hosted a panel. They hosted a panel at NanoCon called How to Make a Bad Podcast. And they got a great turnout. And Maddie K returns for this episode.
Interesting. So, Michelle, since you and I have done a panel on how to make a good podcast, what do you think about this panel, how to make a bad podcast?
I think that's funny. Like, here's everything not to do and then do it. It's cool.
Yeah, we'll have to steal that idea for the future. And in the meantime, let's get on to some news.
All right, news. This week, I'd like to start by talking a little bit about Marvel content in general. So this year so far, well, not this year, but anyways, this season, The Punisher and Jessica Jones have had new seasons come out on Netflix. I don't think any of us have seen the episode yet. Maybe Michelle has.
I've seen Jessica Jones.
Okay.
So
don't spoil us on that, but we are going to watch it and cover it at some point. But Legion now has an air date. It's coming very, very soon in a couple days. It comes out on April 3rd with its second season, and we're all ready to have our minds twisted and confused by that. So
yeah, the latest trailer on that was just fantastic. I'm really looking forward to this season.
Yeah. So now into the actual newsy news. Marvel Comics has announced a new Fantastic Four series.
Yes, I remember talking about this in 2016 when the first family hasn't been together since Secret Wars blew them up. They are finally going to come together again in August. So it's nice to see Marvel's first family back in the comic book world.
Yeah, we've seen different characters as a one-off in different places, but we have not seen all four. I don't think, yeah, we have seen Reed Richards, but I don't think we've seen all four of them. I think the Invisible Woman, is that what she's called?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen her in a comic, but I've seen all the rest of them, and we've not seen any of them together. So this has been noted as a ploy. It came out that it was a ploy by Marvel Comics to devalue the Fantastic Four film rights. So I think this was successful since eventually
I think Fox was doing a fine job of that all on their own.
Yeah, that's true. So I think it was a successful ploy for Disney to use as leverage to at least offer to buy Fox Studios. Now that deal has not been finalized yet, but I haven't heard anything that says it's not going to happen.
Yep. So next up, we've got some news about the upcoming Captain Marvel movie and casting. It seems like they're finishing up their casting, and it will include Clark Gregg, and Jimon Hansu.
Yeah, so the film actually takes place in the 1990s. So we are going to get Agent Coulson in the film. And also we're going to get Lee Pace, who reprises his Guardians of the Galaxy role as Ronan the Accuser. And Jimon Hansu will portray Korath the Pursuer again. So it's underway. It's real. There's filming. It's fantastic. I can't wait. It's supposed to come out March 8th, 2019. So that's another year.
It's going to be great seeing Clark Gregg on the big screen again. And not only that, but we'll see Samuel Jackson on the screen again as well as a bunch of other great actors. So I'm really looking forward to this film. And I think I'm going to need this film as therapy coming out of Infinity War based on some rumor that we've heard, no confirmation of the end of some character arcs. So still looking forward to this for a variety of reasons, but one of which is it's just going to be a good popcorn movie coming out of Infinity War.
Yep. And speaking of Infinity War, we have some news about that as well. So Gizmodo, ahead of the new movie, has calculated who is the best connected character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where it's all connected.
Yes. So James O'Malley took every link included on a given character page, and he downloaded all the pages for 749 Marvel Cinematic Universe characters and found out that the top of the list is actually Phil Coulson. He's directly connected to 135 other characters, thanks to his appearance in all but one of the Phase 1 films, as well as his starring role on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. The most important woman on the list isn't actually in any of the films. It's Daisy Johnson, otherwise known as Quake or Sky from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and her colleague Melinda May, who after 5 seasons have encountered dozens of different characters and have been linked to tons of important moments. The full list has 108 credit characters, and it's an interesting list and how many are connected to who. He even did like a map. There's like this whole complex map and everything. That is something, James. That's a lot of work, and it's really cool.
Can't wait to take a look at that. Now, Phil Coulson is not an Avenger, but didn't Fury make him an Avenger in the TV series?
He's been called an Avenger before.
Yeah, he's like an honorary Avenger. He's like the intern or something. It's
the team manager.
Yeah.
Wait, so you die for the team and that's all you get is to be called team manager or mascot? No, he's a full-blown Avenger.
If he were still alive and told them he was still alive, I could say he was a full-blown Avenger. But since all the Avengers think he's dead, he doesn't get to be a full member of the team.
Touché.
So next up, we got a new international TV spot for Avengers Infinity War.
Yeah, more footage of Thor with the Guardians. There's Doctor Strange. There's also this really cute moment with the Guardians where Star-Lord is telling Groot to put the video game away, and Groot says, "I am Groot," in a way where everybody's like, "Whoa, language. You don't say that." It's funny.
It's the way he said it too. Like, Groot is like just the typical teenage method of saying stuff, which I have had plenty of experience with lately.
So you can relate.
Yeah, and I think I'm just going to say I'm Groot like that back to him in the future. And I get, but Dad, and I'll just say, I'm Groot. And just going to look at me like either I'm crazy or they'll remember that scene and go, Dad, language. I hope they choose the second one because that's what I mean.
All right, and finally, we've got some news from the X-Men corner of the Marvel Universe. The New Mutants movie, which has been in development for forever and is supposedly coming out someday, cut Warlock from the movie because of budget reasons.
Yeah, so we know the film has been pushed back to August 2019. Recent reports suggest that the film has been ambitious from the get-go, with reports surfacing that the original concept was to include a Marvel character fans have been waiting years to see in live-action format, and that's Warlock. That's the alien techno-organic character. Reports state that Warlock was featured in early versions of the film's script, but the character and his abilities were deemed too expensive early on, and future drafts omitted the character. Warlock wasn't the only character teased in versions of the film, with some early incarnations of the movie featuring explorations of the Essex Corporation that was referenced at the end of X-Men Apocalypse. This led to John Hamm playing Mr. Sinister in a post-credit tease, only for Fox to nick this character as well. So
that would have been amazing.
Well, we might eventually get the characters anyway when the movie rights really go over to Disney's control or Marvel Studios control. They might end up doing some of the stuff right as they reboot it, which last we heard like 10 years from now or something like that when they finally get into the cycle.
I'm a little worried about it because I don't think they can incorporate mutants into the universe they have now. They would have to go back to zero. And I don't think that that's what I want. Like, I would love them to just keep going with this franchise and move on to other characters, like get into next generation heroes, as opposed to rebooting and, hey, let's do Iron Man again.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. At some point, it might be time to move on, which actually would be beneficial to the comics because comics are stuck with all these old characters too.
Which is why they have to keep like resetting their universe because they're like, we did something with that character we shouldn't have, and now the only way to fix it is to reboot the entire universe.
Yes, let's have another version of Jean Grey come from a timeline because we messed that up.
Yeah, and this little guy has been rebooted enough, I think.
He's holding up a picture of Iron Man for anybody listening right now.
It's this week's comic that came out, The Invincible Iron Man, issue number 598, which means issue number 600 is a couple months off.
Cool. But yeah, I think it's always a good idea to explore new characters because there is a limit to the number of stories you can tell with a single character. And you've got to be willing to move on and do the next thing.
Yeah, and then you get team ups, and not all of them are bad, like the Champions or the Ultimates 2. That was pretty good team up, in my opinion. But yeah, you get to a point where, okay, I want something else. And if the cinematic universe forces that for the comic book universe, I think, as I stated before, I think that's all good. So we'll see what happens in the future. I don't know if Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. will be around then or not, but if we are, you'll hear it here from Haley. Meantime,
if not, we'll just be muttering into the microphones anyways.
Yeah. Meantime, we're going to move on into the feedback. Now, Michelle, with Lauren gone for the week, you actually took over the live tweeting Friday night during the live episode. So thank you very much for that. But in doing so, you had a couple of great conversations.
Yes, so I appreciate everybody interacting with Consultant Michelle, with Agent Lauren away. One of the tweets I said was, "It's Hydra Hogwarts." Yes, I misspelled Hogwarts, but everybody got the joke. I got a lot of replies, but my favorite is from Chicky at Boba Mariel. Do they study defense against the Dark Ward?
Nice pun there. Dark
Yes.
Ward. Yeah.
Yeah, I love a good pun. I also tweeted they didn't give Coulson pajamas. So rude. They made him sleep in his own clothes. And Christy at Adonna Girl replied, agreed. Do they not have jammies with the Hydra symbol on them?
I think they do, because didn't they give that to the Strucker boy when he was naked when they brought him in and they gave him PJs?
I don't know, but they didn't give Coulson a set. That would have been polite. They made him sleep in his own clothes.
And it would have been funny because you could have had him like ripping off the Hydra patch.
Also, did you notice that he was clearly unshaven the next day? They didn't give him time to or a razor or anything to shave. He was unshaven that day that he went out to get breakfast.
Would you give a prisoner a razor?
Coulson, I mean,
Also, if you were being held hostage in a bunker, would you bother shaving?
Probably not. And you don't know what kind of hand he has. You know, maybe he's got a razor blade in the hand.
He's not Inspector Gadget.
Well, you don't know what gadget he does have in his hand. You don't know which hand he's got.
And maybe the bat, the hand had run out of juice.
What was he doing with it to make it run out of juice?
Haley, it's so good to have you back.
Yeah, we're going to move on. I had an interesting conversation with Space Donkey at Space Donkey 1. Space Donkey asked, are you going to discuss that Ruby is the Kree woman bodyguard from the lighthouse that Daisy killed? And I don't think Ruby is Smurfette. Ruby looked a lot like Smurfette.
It's not the same actor.
Well, no.
No, it was very intentional though when she went in like the full suit and you couldn't see her face. Like they intentionally had her movements be like Smurfette's.
Yeah, we talked about that back then. Yeah. We did.
And then Space Donkey also asked, what's your opinion on Daisy? This season, her character is the least interesting, in my opinion, and least featured. This has been the best season. LOL. Which I agree. It's been the best season.
I think
I
we can all agree.
The least interesting.
Yeah. Well, I said that, I think she'll come into the spotlight now that she has her powers and is determined to save Coulson and stop the future from happening. We do have to admit a lot of stuff has happened to Daisy this season. Mm-hmm. She was told she was destroyer of worlds. Her power got taken. She's been told she's now the leader of the team, even though May is right there.
We've gotten a lot more of Mac and Yo-Yo this season than in previous seasons. So I think that's why some of our other characters have kind of had to take a step back. Not
to mention the science babies really having a spotlight on them too. Mm-hmm. Not that they hadn't in the past, but they're really main characters. Like when the show first started, they were, I would consider, secondary main characters, but now they're just all part of the same team. I think the producers have done a good job of trying to equalize everybody across the board this season. I think so. And I don't think that Daisy might be least interesting in terms of screen time, but not least interesting in terms of I don't know if we have a least interesting character.
Yeah, I'm pretty invested in everybody at this point. So even though Daisy doesn't have a lot going on for her own story right now, like I'm so invested in that character that I can't. It would break my heart to be forced to say something like she's not interesting, because I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, she handled all that Kree without her powers, which was really showing her combat experience and training. And now she is literally leading the team for the first time. And if you've read the comics, she does lead a team, and she has some false steps along the way. And I think this is a great adaptation of the same character in a different situation. So I've been enjoying it. If Space Donkey has not, then I think you just need to wait an episode or two, because she's about to become a very pivotal character.
Yeah, I think we're about due for a Daisy episode.
I'm glad that we had the episode that we did this week, though, coming off of the last episode, because last episode is one of my least favorite episodes of the series. Even though it was like well written, it was such a blindside episode that I didn't appreciate it at all. And I'm glad we had this episode, because it was a little bit of lighter fare, and it gave us a lot of the backstory of different characters that we were missing, as well as some hitbacks to previous stuff. So not to get back into summarizing the episode, but I did like this episode placed where it was coming off.
Yeah, I can appreciate that it was important to have this episode and get the backstory and understand Hale and her motivations. But whenever we do these kind of stories, I'm always annoyed, because it's like I want a story about the characters that I already like. I don't want to spend a bunch of time with this. Like, it's important though. We have to do this. These are our vegetables. We have to eat them.
And we didn't get to see the rest of Hale's team this episode either.
I think it's interesting that it's a way to like summarize the 5 seasons of S.H.I.E.L.D. in a way from a different character's perspective. It was exposition without being stuff we had seen before.
Yes.
It was interesting. That's why I like the world building, and you can do stuff like this. Like in the arresting of all the I was thinking about this when they went back to arrest Hydra after they arrested Gideon Malik, and then they captured all of Hydra. They never went into specifics back then, and I think that's a wonderful plot device to be able to go back and actually explore one of those incidents, which we did in this episode. And I just think it's great that we were able to do it. Now, unfortunately, like the 100th episode, there's just different people that you can't bring back because they passed away. Like Garrett, I mean, even though he died, right? He was vaporized. Or Powers with Malik. It just wasn't capable of being done. So I think they did the best with what they had. And had they had more tools in the toolbox to use, I think they would have even be more spectacular, basically. But all in all, to get back to Space Donkey, excuse me, Space Donkey 1, I like where Daisy has gone. I think she's had an incredible evolution in this series. And I think if anybody has a hope of transferring to the MCU after this is done, it's probably her, Chloe Bennett. I don't know if it'll happen or not, because there's other characters too, right? So, I don't know. All right. It's been a great podcast. Thank you very much, ladies, for taking your time out of this day, this April Fool's Day, to actually do a series podcast on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And can't wait for next week. In the meantime, we're going to use the space teleporter and get this one out. Thank you, everybody that has enabled the Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. skill on your Amazon personal home device. Thank you to everybody that's been downloading the show. The Download numbers have been phenomenal this season. We really appreciate you sticking around and then giving us all the great feedback that you have.
Yeah, thank you to everybody who's listening. Thank you to everybody who sends us feedback in any way. We appreciate all of it. And we hope you're enjoying the season, and we look forward to doing the rest of this show and doing whatever comes after this show that is part of the Marvel Universe and sharing it with you guys.
Yeah, thank you to everyone who joins in, especially during the live tweeting. That makes it very interesting and very special. And to everyone who interacted with me, even when, Agent Lorne normally does this. So to basically accept me while live tweeting has been, I've really appreciated that.
Indeed. And obviously we have not had anybody illegally downloading the show because nobody's told us that they have torrented it or illegally downloaded it yet. So I think everybody's been legal so far.
Please.
Yeah, nobody has. So, and I haven't gone on any of the servers because I won't, and see if the podcast is available there. So I think, Michelle, basically what I'm saying is I think you're safe. I think everybody is legally obtaining the show.
I'm so happy about that.
Until next time, I'm Director SP.
I'm Agent Haley.
And I'm Consultant Michelle.
Bye. See everybody next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. If you want to leave us feedback, go to gonnageek.com and you will find all our contact information and other shows. You can also visit legendsofshield.com where you'll find our complete archive of podcasts. The music heard on this podcast is by Kevin MacLeod, found at incompetech.com, and also artists on pond5.com and audiojungle.net. The opinions heard on this podcast are those of the individual hosts and do not represent Stargate Pioneer Productions, Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., or Gonna Geek. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is the property of the Disney Corporation, Marvel Studios, and ABC. No infringement is intended. Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. is copyright 2018.